What does M.E.R stand for, especially the emotional, energetic part of it?
M.E.R stands for myofascial. Muscle is myofascia, I just talked about. So myofascial. Energetic is the E, release. And the emotional, psychological, energetic part is underlying the holding patterns that we're releasing. Yeah, when we're opening bodies with deep touch and breath and movement. Um, what's being held in the tissue is held back movement, held back emotion, held back energy flow. Yeah, energy gets pulled in. Uh, in our natural state, if we're not held in some defense pattern strongly, in our natural state, energy is flowing through the whole body, from the core of the body out through the extremities of the body. And when energy flows in that way, we feel pleasure, we feel connected, we feel alive. But through unconscious patterns of holding psychological defense as well as holding down emotions in the unconscious, we hold our body tight to restrict feelings from coming up or to withdraw from our environment because of some constant threat. Usually as a child, a constant threat, we pull ourselves back and withdraw and hold ourselves in some kind of pattern where energy doesn't flow well to the extremities. And in the body work that I'm teaching and doing, myofascial energetic release, I open up the fascial system, but at the same time I have people breathe and what we call unwinding, myofascial unwinding, where people start to move and find a movement that is spontaneous and is a way of releasing themselves. And as they're moving and as they're breathing, and I'm touching them softly or deeply, a lot of times deeply, but softly also, what happens is that the energetics, the energy that lives in everything, there's a basic energy, life force that lives in everything. Tai Chi, they call it Qi, yeah? But it's just basic life energy. And that life energy starts to open up and it starts to spread through the body. And it's very important in the work that I teach and do that as the body starts to open and release and the movement and breath start to generate more charge of energy, that the person learns how to discharge it, how to release it, and expand their energies. So in our defense, when we're held in the body and held in our some kind of defense pattern of our mind, what happens is that our energy again gets held in and it doesn't have space to come out, yeah, in its natural way. It doesn't flow. And then those are called blocks. Yeah, people call them blocks. And as they block start to release and energy starts to flow, there's in the work that I teach and do, I'm speaking with the person, dialoguing with them to get them to share what they're experiencing. And they'll say things like, I experience tingling down my arms into my hands or down my legs into my feet. That's warm and alive. It feels like life force is running through my body into my extremities. And that is energy flowing again. You open the pathways with the deep body work. You move the energy with the movement and the breath. Now emotions are held in the body, yeah? They're held back in the body. So often, especially if somebody's trained and has a appreciation or a love to work with people's feelings and their emotions, I do. So in my teaching, I always bring in that emotions are a very important part of the release as we're going deep into body work. Um, and there's a few basic keys I teach. First acknowledge the emotion when it comes up. So, and catch it early. Yeah, like you might see somebody's nose starts to get a little red, and the vibration, lips start to quiver, and you say, "Yeah, tears are coming." Just give them space. That's all you have to say. Breathe into them, allow them, and it gives people permission. Yeah, to allow their feelings, and that's a really important part of the sessions. Now, many people I work on, they don't come for emotional release. They come because they have back pain, they have neck pain, they have knee pain, they have headaches, they have wrist pain, and they just want to get out of pain. So I do teach them, though, that what is causing their pain 90% of the time are repressed emotions. And as the way in which, one of the ways in which we repress our emotion is we tighten our body against them and hold that tension chronically. So I teach them that, but the underlying cause of the pain is the repressed emotion. Uh, Most people don't see it that way. They never heard that before. And you don't always have to release the emotion to release the pain. In fact, often I release the pain without releasing the emotion, but I bring emotional awareness to that person, yeah, to get an understanding that actually emotion being held in the unconscious is tightening the fascia. And fascia is full of sensory nerves, but it's full of what's called nociceptors, which are pain receptors. So when fascia is at a certain level of contraction, it compresses those nociceptors, those pain receptors, and people experience pain. Uh, so as that fascia releases, then the pressure goes off the pain receptor and the pain goes away. So in one way, it's that simple. In one way, it's that simple. And it's and of course people are complex. So sometimes to get to the core of the pain, to really release it, and to get them to understand that emotional repression is the main reason people live in physical pain. So when people come to me for a session, they say, "Oh, I have a low back problem. I've had it for this long, and I'm having an episode right now." And I ask them, "Yeah, have you had some type of diagnosis?" And they say, "Yeah, I went to osteopath, or I went to an orthopedic doctor, and they took an X-ray, and they say I have slip disc or degenerative disc." And I basically tell them it's not the cause of your pain. It's good news. There's no structural damage that is causing pain, because that's structural damage. And then I tell them that what's causing pain is the holding in the soft tissue. And I explain it as I've been explaining it. And that what causes the holding a lot of the times is just emotional repression. Now, for some people, that's hard to hear. And for most people, it's not. But the proof is in the work. Yeah. So as I start to work and their pain gets better, um, and I tell them just to be aware that that their emotional body, and I tell them to read John Sarno's book Healing Back Pain, which is a very good, important book in terms of pain, because it shares just what I'm sharing now, that pain is caused by emotional repression. And just through the understanding, John Sarno didn't get people to emotionally release. He got them to understand where the pain was coming from. And when the awareness was there, the pain went away. And it's the same for me. To do the work of body work, release the holding pattern in the fascia, not just the local area where pain is sitting. Like in the low back, for instance, what is the fear? The fear of abandonment lives there. Yeah, in that area. And that's a big fear that all of us have. Yeah, we all have a fairly big abandonment wound. And so that is the reason that so many people have low back pain, because they have such a big abandonment fear, collectively and individually. And that area just tightens up, and little things can trigger it. Yeah, you know that. What I mean, you feel lonely. What is the main problem that humanity has? Isolation. People are separate, and that pain of separation, yeah, which is the same, it triggers the abandonment wound, and thus the low back pain, the back of the pelvic pain. So I teach the people this, yeah, is education is half the healing, and that's important. It's not just the release of the fascia. Yeah, the release of the fascia will release the pain, but also the education of where it comes from, what is the underlying cause of it. Yeah, when you have holding in fascia, energy is congested. It doesn't flow. When you have stronger holding, it gets more congested. It doesn't flow. And as that holding releases and they start to gain a sense of empowerment from it, because they realize that there's no damage in my body. What it is it's repressed emotion that's causing tight fascia. So it gives them power over their pain. And I experience that. I'll start to get pain somewhere in my body. And rather than going into a thing of, oh, there's something damaged, I'll just remember what I'm teaching and breathe into it. And often it'll release and the pain will go away. Often. And if not, I get some help. I go to somebody who does good body work and helps me.